There was a man, Earl, he was in his mid-30s. It's a true story. And this man, he didn't like himself. He didn't like his own personality. So he'd drink a lot. He'd take a lot of drugs. And, well, yeah, when he was drunk or high, he was a bit looser, I suppose, not as irritable. But he didn't like himself in that state either. And, well, neither did his wife, Marjorie. And the day after, the next day, he'd be even more bad-tempered than usual, even angrier, which meant, he was a real handful. His wife, Marjorie, said to him, "Look, Earl, I don't know. If you can't change, if you stay angry and mean and bad-tempered, I might have to leave you." So they went as a couple to see a neurologist who did a scan of Earl's brain. She wired his brain to an EEG, an electroencephalogram that mapped his brain's electrical activity. And she said, "There, you see, that's the amygdala. It's located in the medial temporal cortex of the brain's lobal region adjacent to the hippocampus. It's involved in emotional processing." "Oh, I see," said Earl. She was showing him this live on the screen. She said, "See how lit up this area is? That's the part of the amygdala that, it's highly activated in you. It has a high density of neuronal synaptic connections." "Is that why I get so upset so easily?" "Precisely," she said. "The functionalization is very high." Earl said, "Oh, well, at least I understand what's going on now." His wife added, but is there anything that can be done about it?" "Well," the neurologist said, "I can refer you to neurosurgeons at Mount Sinai. Let's see if there's anything they can recommend." So Earl and Marjorie went to see Dr. Tinsley, and he looked at the EEG printer and he said, "I think I can help you here. Really, yes. We can fire a series of electrical pulses through that part of the amygdala that processes bad temper and rage. It's at the back there, a little bit to the left, do you see? So as literally to burn off, to desensitize some of the brain activity in that area. Now, you'll be asleep, anesthetized at the time. The electrical pulses we're going to send through will contain such an intensity of hatred and rage that the brain could not possibly bear it in a waking state. The idea is to overload and thus deactivate some of that region's synaptic connections." "Oh, I see," said Earl. "Now, look, the responsible approach here is to go little by little, making only minimal changes each round, to see what the effect of the treatment is and to stop when we've made just the right amount of change to your disposition that you're looking for." "Maybe one go will do it?" asked Earl. "I doubt that will be enough. We'll need to be cautious. This is, let's not forget, an experimental treatment. Have a think about it, Earl, and let me know how you'd like to proceed." Dr. Franklin Tinsley was getting a bit ahead of himself, imagining that if this procedure worked out well, he might have just added a new arrow to neurosurgery's quiver. "I'm free tomorrow," Earl said. The procedure itself didn't last long. Tinsley was cautious. He ran the current for half a second, no more, and then he stitched Earl up. At home that week, Earl was irritable and prickly. His wife said, "Could you take out the trash?" And he replied, "Oh, why is that always my job?" To which she said, "Well, I do everything else." And he said, "That's because you're the one making all the mess." And he pointed to the kitchen's messiness. She said, "Did the surgery make any difference at all?" And he said, "I don't think so." His mind in this moment, as he was shouting, was wired up to a portable EEG. So in the follow-up meeting 3 weeks later with Dr. Tinsley, the doctor could show Earl that, while his brain was slightly less prone to anger than before, they could do a lot more. "Yes, let's do it. I consent, doctor. And you know what? Don't be too cautious this time." The neurosurgeon nodded. "Right on," he said. Next day, the surgeon operated on Earl again, and this time he let the current run for 10 minutes. So when the patient came to, he was different. The orderly asked him, "Would you like some breakfast?" And Earl said, That would be lovely. And whilst I know that you didn't cook the meal yourself, I'm as grateful to you as if you had. Now, very nice. It was a very sweet thing to say. And then the doctor came in doing his rounds in the early morning and he said, "Well, how are you feeling, Earl?" And the patient said, "Well, how are you, Dr. Tinsley? How are you feeling? After all, you did more work yesterday than I did." And Earl chuckled. Again, very thoughtful response. "I'm doing fine, thank you, Earl. I'm going to insist that you stay in hospital a few days longer, just as a sensible precaution." "I feel like a new person," Earl said. "My head is sore around the wound, but I don't feel pain, only gratitude, truly." Earl gave the surgeon his shoe and turned his bare shoulder towards him and said, "Hit me, doctor, hit me, hit me." And the surgeon did. He hit him hard, very hard, in a way that, well, 2 days ago would have enraged this man. But today the patient only smiled. "That feels painful to some degree, but it's hardly a bother. It's really no reason to get upset," Earl said. The surgeon said, "Okay, that's promising." Earl so wanted to see his wife at home, to show her the new him, that he didn't stay those extra days in hospital. No, he discharged himself a few hours later. "Marjorie," he said, smiling with serene contentedness. They were in the kitchen. "Would you like me to clean up here later after our meal?" he asked. She thought, "This is my chance." And she let him know that she was going to leave him at the end of the week because she'd been having an affair. She hadn't told him earlier because she'd been afraid of his enraged retaliation, but she was so glad that the surgeon had done this work on him so that now she could tell him and leave safely. He said, "You're leaving me?" Without anger, just with a pining, heartfelt sadness, with really a new love for her, one she'd never seen before. She said, "Sorry, Earl, yeah, but recently I've met someone else and I'm in love with him." And Earl said, "Well, I appreciate you letting me know this, and of course I don't in any way feel a grudge or any rancor or acrimony as regards the affair or the decision to leave, given all you've endured in this marriage. Even though I should say things will be different now. The doctor did an excellent job, as I think you can tell, so perhaps you could reconsider the decision and stay at least for a probationary period to see all the ways I've changed." She said, "I'm sorry, I've made up my mind." He said, Who is it? Bradley, the yoga teacher?" She said, "I'd rather not say." But just as she said this, Dr. Tinsley appeared from inside of the house, perhaps from the bedroom, wearing underwear and buttoning up his shirt. He walked into the kitchen. "Oh," he said, "my goodness, Earl, Dr. Tinsley." Earl, it's true, began to get a little upset, quite upset at this. His wife said, "We've been having an affair more or less since we met." The patient scowled at the doctor. "You took all of my anger out of me so that she might leave safely?" Dr. Tinsley shrugged. Earl's face heated to a darker colour even than blood itself. He was enraged, but had no way of being so, no way of feeling it. He was enraged nonetheless. "I'm so angry," he said, but really in a tone that was quite kind. "I can't believe you did that. You both did that against me." This time his tone sounded like he was being curious. Is it really true?" Again he said, "I'm so angry." She could see that he was shaking and that fire, his fury, took hold of his face, wrinkled it, drained it of all its life as he snarled so that they could see his teeth. Under normal circumstances, he would have broken things by now, plates or a chair. Surely would have shouted at her and perhaps even hurt the doctor. He took a knife from the kitchen drawer because he knew that that's what an angry person would do. But he couldn't bring himself to use it. No. He knew that he was upset, should be upset, would have been upset before, surely that. He knew he was angry, so angry. I can't believe you did this," he shouted at them. "And you, doctor, you abused your position. How dare you?" His voice was raised to the height of a shout, but with no fury in it. Even so, he really was out of control for someone who was so limited in what he could feel.